So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, and everyone else, welcome aboard. Today, I wanted to spend a little bit of time to talk about D-BT05, which is releasing on 1st of April, this Friday in Japan. And this set, I'm gonna be real with you, when they first started to reveal the cards for the set at the start of March, I was super mega hyped, because for me there was a lot of things like going into the set that were very exciting. The idea of dual nation cards was like, ooh, that might be really interesting, like, you know, really opens up deck building and lots of, like, you know, being able to splash them into different decks that normally wouldn't belong there is pretty exciting. And I thought like all the ride lines looked really cool, especially like stuff like Tamayora looked really awesome, like in terms of art, and I was looking forward to seeing how they would play in terms of gimmicks and things like that. And the encounters didn't really care about as much. I'm not the biggest encounter fan, but I was still like, okay, it's gonna be important, right? It's still gonna be important. But with, you know, that was the big hype, and you know, it being a new main set obviously carried its own kind of hype with all the reveals every single day of the card reveals. But now that the full set list is out and, you know, people are already cracking open cases and boxes and opening packs and stuff, you know, the reality is a little bit different. So in today's video, I want to spend a bit of time to really talk about the actual cards in the set and my first impressions before any playtesting. Obviously, this will change over time as we start to playtest and see what's good, what's bad, what's actually like better than expected, what's worse than expected, and things like that. So this is strictly off of a first impressions perspective that we're building things off of. And I also want to voice a couple of concerns and complaints that I have with this set as well, because there are a few things that, you know, aren't really being talked about, because a lot of people are only really talking about the art, which, you know, I don't really care about discussing that personally. So I think we'll touch on that a little bit too. So getting into it, the set itself is a lot smaller than the other main sets. Like usually main sets are about 120 cards. This one's only 90, which is already a place of concern, because they just cut out 30 cards that could have supported a lot of these new decks that they're introducing here, right? All 5 of these new decks that they introduced, you know, those 30 slots could have been used really well for those 5 decks, you know, and also for the encounter decks. So talking about it, my first kind of issue is that these 10th triple rares, I really hope are a one-time thing, because if you haven't realized, the 10th triple rares, there is 6 different types of them, and you pull either 1 or 2 of them per box, right? Unless you get the secret god pack. The god pack has all 7 of them included, with like a secret rare, blaster blade, or phantom blaster, or the end. But generally speaking, you pull 1 or 2 of them per box, and that's the only way to get them. And you know what used to be pullable as a 1 or 2 of per box and was a 4 of must have in a deck? VRs. You know what they said they wouldn't do once we get into Overdress? Anything above a triple rare. And while these are technically still triple rares, definitely not the same. So I really hope this is a one-time thing. If it's a one-time thing for the sake of nostalgia, I will let it slide. I will let it slide. I'll forget about it. But, you know, when we look at the early prices, might be a little, you know, I wouldn't be too surprised if some of these, I mean, honestly, all of these cards might be a little bit expensive, right? Because they're going to be pretty damn good. And at least, you know, they're not VRs, which means they don't have reprint protection. So that's also pretty good to know. But overall, I think a lot of people were talking about the encounter cards in a sense that the power level of these cards is a little bit lacking compared to the existing metagame and like the existing good decks. You know, you look at Magnolia, you look at Barrow Magnus, you look at Bastion, you know, all the decks that are doing really good in tournaments, you know, that's just the first 3, like there's so many more. But it's kind of hard to say that these 3 will necessarily stand up to them, right? Phantom Blast Overlord is cool. It's like, you know, it's big pressure with the base crit it has and the 4 attacks it can get out that are all pretty big, especially once you start Persona writing. Majesty Lore Blaster will have some good matchups because it's going to be a 15k base that shuts off aggressive decks, you know, or has an easier time dealing with them. You know, those 5k shields, you know, instead of having to drop 10k shields against Magnolia Elder turns, you can drop 5ks, which Overdress decks are full of, right? So that's obviously going to be a huge edge for Majesty Lord in a meta filled with stuff like Magnolia, right? So there it kind of has an advantage, and I think the end, just through the power of drive checks and being able to see OTs and stuff like that, will also have some potential. So I think these decks do have potential, but none of them I think will overthrow the meta. I think neither of them will overthrow the meta, but they will be decent, I think, for the most part. So while I don't like the 10th triple rare thing, because also some of these cards are good in premium. Like some of these cards you want in premium. You want Burning Horns in premium, you want Blaster Blades in premium, you want this Nemain in premium, you know, because she can set up Luard earlier. Like, it's a bit unfortunate that they're locked behind this rarity that like standard players are chasing after, and now premium players kind of have to chase after some of them too. So it's a little bit concerning. I'm a little bit concerned for that, but otherwise I think the power level is okay. And there's one really important thing in that, you know, every time people complain about the encounters and they go like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, it's all nostalgia pandering, we just need to focus on the new stuff, the new stuff, the new stuff. One of the great things for me just yesterday was that one of my friends that I met through a Digimon tournament, and just playing Digimon TCG in a big tournament that I exchanged Twitters with, after seeing, you know, the return of Majesty Lord Blaster, they now want to play Vanguard for the first time in 10 years because their favorite old deck is back, right? And that's who this set is partially made for. It is made for people that played 10 years ago and want to play the game again because some of their favorite cards from like back in 2011, 2012, 2013 are back again, right? Back in the spotlight. And I think that's honestly a great thing. That's a huge marketing for this set. That's why they've based a lot of the marketing around like this like nostalgia factor with a lot of these units, right? Not just talking about the encounters themselves, talking about the Cray Cross Epic decks. So I think overall, some are better than others, and overall it does feel that some of them are incomplete. Like Eva, I really like what we're going for here, you know, the ability to have consistent 4 attacks, the ability to have more filtering through her first skill of basically being like a Yu-Gi-Oh pot is pretty nice. And, you know, to me, she kind of resembles an operator girl in Dimension Police, which anything that resembles Dimension Police for me is like close to my heart. So I'm excited to play this deck. But then they only print 1 research card, which means that this is a turn 4 deck at best, where, you know, on turn 2 we can put down a research card, on turn 3 we can put down a research card, and on turn 4 we can put down a research card. In best case scenario, we can play Meteors and play that on turn 1, and then play a research card on turn 2, and then play a research card on turn 3 to get the grade 3 dudes 10k power bonus. But otherwise it's a turn 4 deck in a meta full of, you know, grade 4s, right? So that's a little bit problematic for me. Like, I'm excited for the deck, but, you know, this is definitely a deck that can get good support in the future and will get better with time. Like, all they need to do is like treat it like Gravidia, give it 1 order per set, and it's good. Literally, because like this whole deck's existence is pooping out Mr. Swordman McEdgeboy. You poop out Swordman McEdgeboy, and you filter your deck, and you just search cards and you add them to hand and that kind of stuff, right? So the moment they give us like a grade 1 research card, just that's it. Perfect. The deck becomes faster. We can set up the whole effect on turn 3, and it's great. But you know, that's one of the things. Like we don't even know exactly when set 6 is coming out yet, I think. And that's one of the concerns that people in Japan are voicing with this set, is that it, like, Japan got set 4 on Christmas Eve, and set 5 is coming out on April 1st. You see how big of a gap that is? All of January, all of February, all of March. Like, that's a long ass gap. That's a long ass gap. And like, these decks don't really like lift the power ceiling or like really dent the meta from set 4 either. And it's not like you want to do restrictions to the set 4 decks either, right? So that's kind of like where a lot of the arguments are coming from about the set right now. As for the other ride lines, I think Tamayora is probably the most complete of them all, because her package is pretty huge. Like, you have to play 4 of her, you play quite a few of like the stealth cards, as well as like the dinosaur that goes to soul and like powers up other things. You have to play both dolls, you have to play the fox art. So people said, like, people that are testing Tamayora said, like, even if Tamayora got a second fox art, you wouldn't have space for it. Like, this deck is basically already packed. So I think this deck is actually pretty complete, and I think it has some good potential because you have a lot of front row buffs. You have basically a 15k power bonus on your Persona Ride turn, not including any other power buffs you get from other effects, and you can make like 5 attacks, which is pretty good. The dolls do a lot of good work, and you have a lot of ways to set them up. Like, you literally have a double rare searcher for the dolls, you know? You look at top 7 and find a glitter card, which is, you know, one of the dolls, or a stealth card, and just put it into soul, right? So it's pretty good, definitely quite nice, and I think that overall, Tamayora is the most complete deck. Chaos is a card and like a deck that will only get better with time. Like, the more good random generic Dark States cards are printed, the better the Highlander deck gets, right? So there are some cool cards that help it be a bit more consistent, like this little horseman over here. The horsey you can bind to Soul Charge 2, so you can technically play 4 of him in Chaos, Soul Charge all 4 of them, and then just Soul Blast 3 of them out, so you don't have multiple copies in the Soul, but you have like other 6 different cards in the Soul that you got out of him. So there's some potential there. There's a potential there. Tearia, I've heard that, especially going first, has some potential, you know, good columns, good consistency, and things like that. I haven't tested it myself yet, but it sounds like the deck itself is pretty alright. I know people online are really heated about the art here, but honestly, we've had Feluca in Vanguard since like day one, man. It's fine. You can live with Tearia. We've had Feluca since day one, right? And then Rorowa, I think Rorowa benefits from being a Stoicheia card, which means it can play Inlet Pulse. And overall, it's like an interesting card because it has an aggro aspect to it, because you can just really play a bunch of early plant tokens and like rush your opponent down and then just kind of recuperate your losses later on with stuff like Inlet Pulse. And I think that, you know, Radirina with a token do help the deck push, so I think it has some potential, but it's not going to be Magnolia, right? So we're gonna see. And I think there's no Searcher for Radirina, which kind of sucks, so that's kind of sad as well. But other than that, like, looking at the Dual Nation cards, this is kind of where my complaint comes from, is that, like, I was really excited about the Dual Nation cards in, like, using them in premium, you know, and some of them are very generically useful. Like Maple could be used in every single deck because she's a free, she revives herself basically every turn for free, which is really cool. And like the dolls, the Direful dolls are also pretty generic, honestly. Like their main effects just require each other to be on the field, so something like NLK could use it, Barrow could use them. Like, there is some potential in them, but of course the heavy Soul Blast makes them not as useful in some decks where they could be used. So maybe like Pale Moon, that could be used, but like at least there's room for at least debating using them, right? So some of them are a bit more useful than others. I think like Radirina, the Obscudate, I still don't know how to pronounce IG McKnight's new dude's name, but he's not very generic. Like, there's no real reason to use him in any other deck outside of his own. Same with Mikani. Mikani is actually kind of like, he's a bit more generic, but you know, it's just the removal effect, which a lot of these decks already have. I could honestly see myself using him in Dimension Police, maybe, because he's a grade 3. So he's a grade 3 that I can just put into Dimension Police, and then, you know, Dialiner doesn't really have any, like, any kind of, like, board control. So if my opponent puts down, like, you know, if they have some pesky targets in the back, I could technically use it. So there are some uses for this kind of card, right? So I think there is a bit of potential. There is a bit of potential, but the decks overall feel like they're kind of lacking in power level. They feel like they really could have used some more support in the set, but, you know, I think that overall there could be a little bit more. There's a bit more to be desired. And looking at the double rares, like, a lot of these are just support for the Crate Cross Epic Ride lines and the encounters, right? Encounter support, Tamayora support, generic card. The heals are actually, I've grown to like the heal guards. Mikani can be a removal unit if you're in a meta with a lot of specific annoying units. And in premium, we definitely have a lot of specific annoying units right now, so I could see myself using him if I have to play in tournaments where this card is available, you know? But the heals, at first I was really not that happy with them, but then I was like, wait a second. These are 10k shields. In a Magnolia meta, these are pretty damn good, because most of Magnolia's attacks are like 18, 19, guardable with 10, and then I can use the 25k shield against decks like Bastion, right? So this one and the Festival Collection heals will actually be pretty useful, purely because of the fact that, you know, having the 10 covers your most common matchup, which is Magnolia, and then the 25 is like, you know, imagine you're like guarding against a restood Bastion Prime kind of column. This makes that column much easier to guard. When we get the critical, like the heals that, you know, work off of your opponent, like having a unit with 2 crit, that will be really good in like a Barrow meta, because Barrow attacks with 23 and you can 1 card guard because you go to 38, so you already 2 to pass them with 1 card. So depending on your local meta, these heals might actually be pretty good, right? And then there's like some of these double rares are just like really cool in general. Like this guy is on place rear, Soul Blast 1, draw 1, and then put any card from hand into Soul. It's like this, the rest of the effect is obviously for Chaos, right? It's like it looks at how many different cards in Soul you have, but this is cool for setting up Greedon. This is cool for setting up specific cards in Barrow. This is cool in like Premium, right? Same goes for this guy. In the front row, all of your units that have all of your rear guards that have a different name from this guy cannot be targeted, like cannot be affected by your opponent's effects. So in Premium, you can put this in the front row and then like put like a lag rail in the front row as well on an ultimate turn, and then your opponent cannot denial Griffin the lag rail anymore. Like, it opens up cool ideas in Premium, so he's actually pretty interesting. And so I think that there's some potential there. There's some potential there. A lot of the double rares are also pretty decent. Like this card in Zorga has potential. Can almost one pop 2 of your rears to draw 1 and get 5. So you can like have 2 of like the prison dragons that are just like chilling there, get rid of them, draw a card, and then bring them back next turn, right? There is potential cards in this set that, you know, some of us aren't really looking at, but at the same time there could be more, and that's the main complaint in the set, is that there could be more. Why is this card so much smaller than a normal base set, right? The 30 cards could have been used for something to support these the new decks, right? To make them be at least like have the ability to compete, because, you know, we can make the argument like, oh, you know, these decks, like, oh, they only have 1 set of support, you know, every deck that gets only 1 set of support is never that good, you know, look at Flagberg, it had to wait for inlet pulls. But then I tell you, look at Gravidia. Look at Gravidia. She was good right out of the box. Literally 1 set of support, amazing, you know. Look at Lorne Roll, 1 set of support, best deck in the meta, you know. So it's possible, it's definitely possible. It's not like Lorne Roll needed that many cards either. Like, they're just such small improvements you can make to make these sets so much, like these decks so much better, right? You know, whether it's giving a card to Chaos that, like, even if you have multiples in Soul, count as different cards. Or, you know, giving another Fox art to Tamayora just to kind of spice up deck building. Or giving a 2nd or 3rd research card to Eva to make the deck building a bit more interesting, a bit more intricate, you know? I'm not sure how you would support the Tearia, to be honest, but like, you know, for Rorowa to give a Ladirina searcher, you know, things like that. Like, these could have been put into the set, and it feels like they're missing. It feels like it's a little bit lacking in that sense, right? So I think that's kind of where this complaint comes from, right? It's like we've had to wait 3 full months for this set, like 4 months basically for a set, only to see that it doesn't beat the existing meta, and we have to wait for more support to make it actually relevant, right? Some of the comments are cool, and of course the big catch is that, like, you know, as I said earlier, it's for a lot of people that haven't played the game in a long time. It will get them back, you know, very nostalgic, rarity cards, there's the God Pack, there's like the secret rare PBO and Overlord and Blaster Blade that I can throw up on the screen here in editing, but like, you know, there is spice. There is, like, you know, reason to buy the pack, and I think the new decks will be fun. I'm still personally looking forward to playing with the new decks, you know, and I think for a lot of people, just looking at Twitter and Discord and Facebook and like all social medias, it demotivates them from even like wanting to explore the new decks, because all you see is like negative, when actually like these decks are kind of cool, you know. They're not game changing, they're not really switching up things, but they're still interesting. I just wish that going forward, as we are now officially entering year 2 of Overdress, I think this is where we can start to let go of the handholdiness, because so far it's felt very much like, you know, year 1 I think has been pretty handholdy, which makes sense because the format is new, the game is new, like, you know, Overdress is brand new, and a lot of new players are coming in, and they need their hands held a little bit so that they can know how to traverse and how to, you know, just play this game, right? But I think it's okay. We don't need to print so many cards that are like, if your Vanguard has a Bastion name, if your Vanguard has Magnolia name, you know, we can make more inlet pulses, we can make, you know, more cards like that, you know, are kind of made for a specific deck, but other decks that function similarly could also use them. We can make more good set orders that work in every single Brandgate deck, right? We can make stuff that, you know, like Worlds have been great because they're like generic, there's like Upstart Goblin or like Make a Token or stuff like that. You can put that in Eva, you can put that in Gravidia. So let's make more of that. Let's make more stuff that, you know, that doesn't have to be the main thing of the set, but just splashing that into sets will make deck building so much more interesting. And that is the number one thing that I want to see from upcoming sets for Overdress, is that, you know, I think we're going to get more and more ride lines, and it's perfectly fine to have more and more ride lines, you know? We're probably by the next year going to have 50, and I think people will be like, oh my god, it's just like clans, you know, now we're back to the clans. But, you know, the thing is, like, we've always had a lot of clans. Like, even though we had 24 clans, think of the sub-clans, you know? Are Liberators and Gold Paladin really the same? Not really, right? Or does a Revenger card coming out mean that Shadow Paladin's getting support? No, Revengers are getting support, because only Revengers can use it, right? Because they're all so, like, restricted within each other. Remember a special counterblast? Like, they're basically making clans within clans. And with ride lines, like, all you need to do is print cards that can be used by those, like, the game mechanic is useful for that type of deck. So whether it's multi-attack, whether it's set order, whether it's manipulating the soul, these decks are capable of functioning semi-generically, and I think we need a good balance of specific support for specific themes, and keywords like Final Rush, and also some generic stuff to spice up deck building. I'm not saying that the whole set needs to be generic, I'm saying we need a little dash of it, just a little bit of good spice, you know, a bit of inlet pulls here and there, make it a rare, you know, that kind of thing, like just make it accessible, make it cool. We can do a bit better with this, but overall, the set is fine. I think the set is fine, it'll work for what it needs to work for, and I think it will bring back players to the game that haven't played in a long time, and I think that, you know, as time goes on, these decks will also get better. So there you go. Those are my first impressions of set 5. I think overall it's fine. I'm excited to play a lot of these decks, but at the same time I'm also excited to see how some of these cards have, you know, some premium applications and things like that. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what you think of the set, what are your takes on the set 5, you know, whether it's disappointing or hype, or some deck that you're really excited about, or specific cards you're excited about trying out in certain decks. Let me know in the comments and I'll try to respond to you as well. And of course, if you like the video, give it a like. If you haven't already, please, you know, subscribe. That's much appreciated. You want to support the channel even more, you want to help me improve my content, hey, you can consider becoming a YouTube channel member or subscribing on Twitch before Lord Bezos takes away your money and you don't even get to use your Twitch Prime. Bezos gives you a chance to use $5 for free every month and you don't use it, he keeps it, you know? It's not the way to go, not the way to go. But anyway, check all that stuff out in the description. I really appreciate it. But that's gonna be it for me today. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.